I was just wondering if you'd be able to maybe tell your story a little bit and just share with us how you ended up where you are now.
Right, right. Well, I'll give you the tweet version anyway, Matt.
Yeah, yeah,
If people are interested, there's certainly lots out there. You can get my book or have a look at my TED Talk or anything like that. But basically, I was someone who wasn't making good decisions in their life because I was placing value on the wrong things. And I had some really unhelpful ideas about myself. I was addicted to drugs as a teenager. I was actively involved in crime. And as a result of some decisions I made at 18, I was responsible for the unnecessary death of someone else and went to prison and spent the next 10 years, 10 months behind bars. But for me, that adversity, the adversity of the prison environment was a catalyst for growth and change. It was what my parents' generation would have referred to as a character building experience, which I think is something really useful to actually consider. I think in modern society, we're far too quick to assume some really unhelpful ideas, such as that we're supposed to always feel happy and in control. And if we experience distress, there's something wrong. Whereas distress is a normal experience of the human journey. And actually, it's when the chips are down, it's when times are tough, that we really have that opportunity and the motivation a lot of the time to find out who we can be rather than who we are when times are easy, but also to have that motivation to really sort of grow as people. But also as well, of course, stress and adversity provide an inoculating effect for us against future stress and adversity. But I think it's actually really powerful to be able to see this as a challenge to be embraced, as something that will have positive outcomes associated with it. That was the big game changer for me, is stopping seeing myself as a victim, stopping seeing my challenge and my adversity as something that was just happening to me, and seeing it as a challenge to be embraced, seeing it as a vehicle for me to be able to get better and do better as a human being. And that's a really powerful difference in lens and perspective. And what we know is that just shifting your focus and going, hey, it's not supposed to be easy, and now I'm in abnormally challenging circumstances. Whatever I'm feeling, whatever the impacts of that, will be normal in abnormal circumstances. And they're not something to be worried about. I'm not going to worry about worrying. I'm not going to worry about not sleeping as much. I'm going to go, I'm in abnormal circumstances. This is a challenge to be embraced, not a threat to be avoided. And one of the things I'd say as well, which I think is really probably quite useful for people who are, who are in the breach, who are in the trenches, who are trying to do the real mahi right now in terms of this area, is to really make sure that you're doubling down on making sure that you are present and focused and attentive on what's going on for you in the moment, rather than letting yourself getting carried away with worries about what might happen going forward, or dwelling on and ruminating too much about things in the past, but to really double down on that focus. A lot of people, as a result of their training and just general exposure, will have come across stuff around resilience, which really is about bounce. But unfortunately, very few people get good exposure to mental toughness. Mental toughness is what we tend to focus more on in sports psychology, because it's not about bounce after the event. It's about maintaining your effectiveness and your ability to cope in the heat of the moment when the pressure is on. And one of the key ideas that really is focused on massively in sports psychology is that ability to focus on immediate sensory experience, to get out of your head and to really be able to perform and do what you need to be able to do. And be that the equivalent of a Brad Thorne chucking water in his face just to get the sensory experience, or a Dan Carter screwing up his toes in his boots, or whatever it is, finding some mechanism that you can use that really just helps refocus your attention on immediate sensory experience to get out of your head and to really be able to focus on what you need to be able to do in the moment, I think is really crucial for people in this set of circumstances. And then you can worry about all that great resilient stuff that you know about bounce, but to just help you cope in the heat of the moment, that mental toughness stuff, that's the stuff I think people will get most value from right here. Yeah. It was something I certainly learned in the School of Hard Knocks, how to employ effectively in terms of dialing down strong emotions, so that I would start to make better decisions in the prison environment and not be as carried away by old habits and responding to the emotional drivers that I would have based on worries and concerns about other people's views and opinions, and to be able to start doing what was in my own best interest and really change my life, even in a challenging environment. Yeah. And I think that was key for me in terms of turning my life around, is I didn't see this as a situation, prison that is, that had to be waited out. I saw it as the opportunity to make the start. And I think the same is true in our current set of circumstances. Don't be waiting for this to be over. start just focusing on how you're performing, on how you're living, on how you're behaving, on how you're looking after yourself and others today, and don't even worry about some imaginary future where things are easier. Now is the time. It's the only time.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really just about embracing the challenges and trying to use that stress and that challenge to grow and develop further. And obviously that's what
100%.
you've done. And it's actually, you can see this as a massive opportunity as well, can't you?
Oh man, it really is, eh? But again, it's about that conceptualizing as a challenge, as something to voluntarily embrace. What we know is that when you conceptualize something as a challenge that you are voluntarily entering into and choosing to embrace, it activates completely different parts of your brain. It activates your approach system. So we're talking about nucleus accumbens, part of the brain associated with satisfaction and the satisfaction that you get from overcoming challenges. Now that's the part of your brain associated with memory and learning, the approach system, that gets activated. Whereas exactly the same experience, if just conceptualized as a threat that's happening to you to be avoided, then we're all about the amygdala. We're all about pumping cortisol into our systems. The simple act of choosing to see yourself as voluntarily embracing this as a challenge has a massive difference in terms of the neurological experience and the stress-related outcomes.
Yeah. And it's all about changing our mindset, isn't it? You know, changing the way we're thinking about things. And I think that's quite hard. You know, like it's something you have to practice over and over and over again.
Quite hard is an understatement. You are the king of understatement by saying that is quite hard. I would say it is a lifelong journey,
yeah,
a lifelong struggle, but it is the most meaningful struggle you can engage with, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's the only thing that you can start to hope controlling in some small way is how you perceive things, how you respond to things.
Yeah.
And you know, look, this is not new stuff, right, Matt? This is why I'm such a fan of Stoic philosophy. Because fundamentally it was about the idea that the most important thing, in fact, the only really important thing in life is my ability to control my thoughts about how I choose to perceive and respond to my experiences. You know, the reality is a lot of the time we walk around with this illusory sense of control in our lives when really we're just in circumstances of relative good fortune. Now we find that those fortunes have changed, and it's a really good opportunity to start focusing on the stuff that'll give us the greatest well-being and the greatest self-efficacy and effectiveness in life, and that's how we respond to our circumstances, right? Those thoughts and beliefs. But it is a struggle. You know, the challenge is real, and it's a lifelong journey. No one's sitting at the top of their mountain. No one's responding perfectly in all situations to all people. You know, you can talk to the Dalai Lama, who spends their life trying to embody this stuff, and they'll tell you that they're not, you know, at a state of perfection in that respect. So recognizing it's supposed to be hard. And when you fail to be who you want to be, recognizing that's not a reason to beat up on yourself and to judge yourself, particularly for people who tend to orientate and go towards medicine, are often people who are used to being high achieving and have perfectionist tendencies. So they can be even more prone to being harsh on themselves, to being hard on themselves when they don't live up to their own expectations. But recognizing actually those failures, that's how you get stronger. That's how you end up doing better, is through learning through those mistakes, learning about your own fallibility, and day by day just learning to manage it and be a little bit more effective as you go. That's the path. There's no being perfect as a human being.